What's going on, creators? Yeah, just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to continue kind of the flow of making peace with what is in the present moment. You know, not to sit there and start judging every little thing and being so critical. Yeah, that's something I've been kind of guilty of on some, was being hypercritical, and maybe not even to a degree that others could even notice. It's more of an internal critical thing, and I think a lot of that stems from music, because in learning an instrument and really putting a lot of attention to detail in that, and I think that kind of overflows in other areas where it's not necessarily helpful, and in some most cases hurtful, at least personally hurtful, in the sense of constantly trying to control situations, manipulate others, and everything like that. With my handyman business, this is now day 2 where my guys out there doing jobs with me and everything. I called the other guy that's in the hopper, kind of explained the situation to him, told him kind of what's going on as far as I'm trying to actively find work for him to do, to hang tight and just I haven't forgot about him, and this is going to happen, and so it's not like taking things up a notch, and into kind of an unknown territory, which is interesting because the thoughts and the kind of the random fire thoughts that sometimes start to happen. A lot of times if you're in a negative state or a state of fear, these thoughts that start racing in, a lot of times they're just triggering and amplifying the fear. But when you're facing more of the unknown, when you're getting into new situations where you haven't really ever done it before, it's a different, you start thinking thoughts that you never even thought you'd think before, because everything's new and everything's different. And so really, I don't know, to stress the importance, for others that might feel stuck, to start changing that order of operations. So start just moving and doing things differently, and let the thoughts start to catch up to the new actions, because it's really important when you start to step out into faith, just to start trusting the unseen, start trusting God, that everything's working out for our good, and everything, love is all that's real. Everything else is illusions and different levels of illusion, and so much of it is just from our old way of thinking about things. And as much as the old man hates to hear that, because it thinks it knows everything about literally nothing really, but but the funny thing is, it's it feels like an attack, and it's not really an attack. It's just these patterns of beliefs that ultimately cause suffering unconsciously over and over again, because we believe certain things about how things are. This is just how things are. These kind of excuses that we tell kids that ask an honest question of why is this injustice happening? Well, it's just how things are. That kind of mindset. It's that's not even real. For one, but moving in that direction of doing new things. This kind of my flow at the moment. And so kind of to recap, for those that are interested in kind of the creation flow, manifesting and these labels we put on taking action from an idea to bring something into reality. That's something that through repetition you start catching these patterns. Where it's the old man is always trying to get that reward out here of you made it. It's just you just want to stand on a podium and the world says, hey, congratulations, you did it, you made it. And then followed by all that utopia of happy feelings and yes, yeah, that the story that we tell ourselves that if I just won the lottery, it'd just be so different, or if I just had a track that went viral, then I'll just do this, or if I was a cook, if I just put this thing on the menu and it just fucking takes off, just all these things, when what we're seeking is just to feel good right now in the present moment. And so much of the old man was constantly just reminiscing about the good old days in the past, or just in imaginary fantasy of a future that is always, you got to sacrifice and grind now for this payoff. And the thing about that, and this is coming from someone who's done that rabbit hole many times of just chasing, these milestones, having, achieving them, and then it's like on to the next one, and then you keep going on this hamster wheel, and you keep moving shit around, and you're just grinding the whole time for this future. And that's like been a stumbling block for me when it comes to like the law of attraction, which I think is why so much of that for me as like kind of putting that to the test, which is a biblical concept wrapped up in different language. When Jesus in the Bible would say whatever you ask for, believe that you've received it and it's yours. But he also said to seek the kingdom of God which is within. And that's kind of a mystery of what that even means, but that's something that you do on your own and find out from experience as you work on this thing with God. And if that's a trigger word, just think of love. I mean, it's like what fear is, which is the exact opposite. Which is so many times that you get sick of I get sick of hearing these people that just think fear is like, there's some noble thing about it. It's like, it serves this purpose, and it's like on some level I get how you create these unconscious patterns that cause suffering. How you suffer long enough and hard enough, it eventually wakes you up to go like, what the fuck am I doing? Why does it feel like everything is inverted and upside down? And it's just like, it feels like a hell realm. It just feels like worst case scenarios and all this shit. Just basically what you don't want, happening constantly. As the fear starts to manifest more and more, and it's like, through that suffering now, it's ultimately facing the fear of death, which I feel like is a I don't know, is an important thing to do before you actually even have sign of an illness or something. It's like, why do you got to wait till you're like a 90-year-old man on your deathbed before you've dealt with this? That's the thing with this COVID shit that's been kind of eye-opening for me, is how many elderly and old people aren't on some level prepared to die. It's like, really? What have you been doing for 70 years? Just playing the game? It's like, what are you doing? But, I'm not to sit there and judge it, but it's just surprising because, that was something that like hit my radar in my late 20s, is like, I need to address this. I'm not going to just have this looming fear of death, and just deal with that for however long until it finally happens. And so I think a big part of like that born again, that new vibe, is to face that fear. And a lot of it's facing the unknown, and a lot of it is facing a fear of loss, a fear of it's just, it's ultimately, and as crazy as this sounds, it's ultimately a fear of being afraid of love. It's like you're afraid of love. As backwards as that sounds, that might be a big truth to start to unpack. But like, really getting more into this vibe though of, focusing on, facing these new challenges and growing and expanding, but then also understanding how we're all connected anyway. And part of this is like kind of a testing thing for me. I find it game-like, and like part of that game-like vibe is something I've kind of like, I think I've drew this before, with this waterfall kind of vibe. Let me see if I can do this real quick. So, on some level here, imagine, this is like a waterfall, which is like basically love flowing through, in you and through you. And so this is you. And there's your face, and we're just going to do a head. But then, then it kind of flows out to others. But ultimately, the connectedness of all things, the oneness, it starts to come back to you then too. It's almost like you're like taking this water hose and spraying it out here on others, but then you get to drink from that flow. And that's like almost like the main way you get that kind of flow. And I'm exploring that, with my business, is like in paying others, paying generously, because I believe that that money is going to multiply and come back through just this kind of law of consciousness that I'm testing. And so yeah, and maybe that sounds crazy to some, but this is what I decided to do, just for fun, I guess. And so yeah, just seeing how that works, and then ultimately trusting in it more and more, so that's how this kind of flow works of like oneness is like what you give to others, you are ultimately giving to yourself in this weird way. And as long as you're giving love, I mean, it's like you're not causing others to be in a state of fear. That's a big thing too. But then also, really running your own race, because worrying about other people's states of consciousness is that's on them. That's between them and God. That's not you. Try to work on just loving them for the good that's in them, which they're 99.999. They are love. Ultimately, I mean, they're not fear, even though they might be at times reacting out of fear and becoming, in that kind of state of being, but that's not who they are. But keeping this kind of flow in mind, with these new challenges that are coming up, but then seeing how, through just believing, just through faith, knowing that so much of this from experience is reflecting, different aspects of consciousness, and seeing what maybe looks like a weed and plucking it out. It's like, okay, well, I don't necessarily, that's not who I am anymore. So much of this is just defining, who are you? Who did God create you to be? That's between you and God what that is. But everything is, we're always defining ourselves, either consciously or not. Kind of what we're doing on some level, exploring and growing and seeing and doing all these things in creation just to experience it. Why not? And so with that being said, kind of continue to update you guys on the process or progress of kind of handyman business, because I'm ultimately wanting to take the profits from that and financing a cafe with my wife, because that's just like something that she's been wanting to do. And really looking at things as being very game-like and dream-like. It's like, okay, there's no limits to what's possible, with God. And so, okay, let's see how far we can take this. And so just doing that for the fun and joy of it, and as a benefit to the community and to her and to everybody else in our town that could hang out there and raise the collective energy at the same time. I'm all for that kind of stuff. I really look forward to once my business continues to grow more and more, to give back to the community. And like I worked for this guy. He had a landscape. He still does have a landscape business. I learned a lot from this guy, and his business is. Most people may not get this number, because it was a shocking number to me. But it's like, I think 90-something% of like small businesses make less than $1 million a year, and really the ones that make more than that are kind of the minority. But like he's in that minority. His business is doing multi-million dollars and stuff. But like looking at how he was handling it, he treated his guys really good. He always treated me very kind, even when I did fucking damage to some of his property on accident, but it still happened. And like he was cool about it. And at the same time, I learned a lot about team building from that. And I learned some things to do differently. But like one of the things I really liked about his business is that gives you an incentive, like 2 weeks of the year to do community service. You get to pick, and he'd pay for you to do that. And I'd like to continue that kind of a flow with my business too. And so and he takes a lot of like stuff for like his church and like helping others. And yeah, I'd like to do that with my business too. And with that being said, kind of probably gonna wrap this thing up. But like I just want to give you guys an update. For those just tuning in, I mean, just I don't know. This is just kind of just looking into the Truman Show of what's going on in my little bubble. Not to say whatever you're doing isn't interesting or anything, but like this is just what I'm doing. How I'm choosing to create different things at the moment. I might put out some guitar music. I just put some new strings on my guitar. I might record something here. We'll see. And with that being said, I think I'm gonna bounce. So until the next now, everybody have a good rest of your now, and God bless.